Hello, everybody. It's Yolie Medina, civil attorney. So today I'm making a video about Bryan Kohberger and Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione is the alleged perpetrator who committed the crime of unaliving the CEO in New York City, the CEO of United Healthcare. And we all probably know who Bryan Kohberger is, but he's the one who is alleged to have committed the crime of unaliving the 4 students in Idaho. So, I listened to Mr. Mangione's attorney today, who has stepped in to represent him. And he made an interesting comment. He said he didn't know much about what was going on because he's a criminal defense attorney and he doesn't have time necessarily to be looking at the news. And, he said that, he advised, or basically they're going to fight the extradition, is what he said. So in Bryan Kohberger's case, he did not fight the extradition. And so I'm just pointing out these differences because I feel like both of these, well, not that I feel, both of these individuals, Bryan Kohberger and Luigi Mangione, were both alleged to have committed crimes in other states, but were arrested in Pennsylvania. And so with that in mind, I want to talk about the arrest of Bryan Kohberger in Pennsylvania and how that was done under the fugitive statute. And I've made prior videos on this, so you can take a look at the prior videos I made regarding Bryan Kohberger being arrested under the fugitive statute and being arrested with a no-knock warrant where they entered in the middle of the night and broke down his doors and held everybody at gunpoint. But when it came to Mr. Mangione, where they had a photograph of him and they had, people, they had a hotline for people to call in tips. They didn't have that in the Kohberger case. They didn't even have a description or a drawing of the description that was given by DM of the perpetrator. So, and in the Mangione case, there's a reward out for anybody who locates or sees this individual. And in the Bryan Kohberger case, there was no award for anything. So, I just look at these differences and I wonder why that is. And I'm sure a lot of people might be wondering why. And so I wanted to make this video because this Mr. Mangione, and I will say this, that he's innocent until proven guilty. And most people will think, well, he's on the photograph. I mean, he's on video, or, he admitted to it. There's some findings that were in his backpack where he talked about doing it, committing the unaliving of the CEO for reasons, personal reasons, or for reasons we don't know. I mean, I haven't dissected the manifesto. But there's 2 manifestos, apparently. One is going around about how his mother struggled. And then the other one goes around about how these people, he deserved it, or the healthcare industry deserved it, and it was coming. Something to that effect. So, and I don't know if anybody's seen it, but he had an outburst when he was being taken in to a hearing today. So when Mangione's attorney talks about innocent until proven guilty, and he talked about that constitutional presumption, there is such a thing as not guilty by reason of insanity. And that is an affirmative defense in New York, and the defendant only has to prove it by a preponderance of the evidence in New York. not beyond a reasonable doubt, but by the preponderance of the evidence, and it's an affirmative defense. So if he is found not guilty by reason of insanity, then he is technically not guilty of the crime, even though there might be evidence that he did it. He's not guilty by reason of insanity. But the interesting thing that I found was that Mangione's attorney did not say that they pled not guilty based on insanity, by reason of insanity. He said they just pled not guilty. So it's interesting. I'm wondering how this is all going to pan out, and I'm wondering why they didn't use the fugitive statute to arrest Mr. Mangione, and they arrested him in a McDonald's, or they went to talk to him at the McDonald's. And again, like I've always mentioned, the list killer was arrested in front of a storefront in New York. I mean, it was just sort of people in suits came and they arrested him. So I go back to Bryan Kohberger, and I always think, why? Why did they do that with Bryan Kohberger? And it's a question that I hope will be answered with these motions to suppress evidence in the Kohberger case. And, I've been thinking about this, and as I was thinking about it, I thought, you know what, I need to make a video because I'm not going to remember tomorrow all my thoughts. Well, I'm going to remember, but I'm thinking about it right now, so I should just make a video. So that's what I'm thinking. And this Mr. Mangione, I'm sure he's had his sufferings and had, health problems and problems with insurance or whatever. But unaliving someone is never the answer. It's not. Unless, you're doing it, or you are protecting the public or protecting yourself from lethal force. I mean, other than that, unaliving is never, never, never the answer, no matter what. And if somebody finds themselves having thoughts about unaliving somebody for some vendetta, they need to get help. I mean, they need to have some insight, or try to have some insight and get help. And they need to step outside themselves and look. What they're thinking is not thinking. But if Mangione had some kind of psychosis, something that made him insane under the legal definition, in which he did not know what was right from wrong, then the insanity defense might come into play. And maybe he will plead guilty by reason of insanity. But right now, what I'm seeing is a premeditated unaliving, which, well, I mean, if you're insane and you premeditate something, that kind of premeditating kind of defeats the purpose that you're insane. But I'm not a death penalty attorney. I'm not even a criminal defense attorney. But in looking at how both were arrested, the question remains, why was Bryan Kohberger arrested under the fugitive statute in Pennsylvania? And why Mr. Mangione, who was a wanted person, presumably dangerous because he was alleged to have committed basically an assassination on the street in New York City of a CEO. And how he knew that the CEO was going to be there, and when the CEO, Brian Thompson, I believe, was walking out of the hotel, that all takes some premeditation. So it's possible to be psychotic and to be having paranoia and all these delusions and plan something. But that's going to be a hard sell. Okay, it's going to be a hard sell to a jury, because the premeditation part of it. I mean, he was bright. He was suffering from some problems with his back. But there's a lot of people who have problems with their back. There's a lot of people who don't even have health insurance. And there's a lot of people who have become addicted to opioid medications. There's a lot of people who have troubles. They got injured at work and now they can't work, and now their back pain is killing them. But they don't go around planning this assassination. So those are my thoughts. And I'm looking at this case from the standpoint of two people who were persons of interest, I guess. And one was contacted, or, communication was had at a McDonald's. And the other one was surveilled and basically bombarded in the middle of the night with the SWAT team and guns blaring and holding everybody at gunpoint in the early morning hours. It just makes me wonder, what could possibly be the reason for that in Kohberger's case? And why wouldn't the officers who got the tip that this Mangione was in the McDonald's, why wouldn't they surveil him and follow him and watch him to see what he does? Instead, they went in and they talked to him. It's just baffling to me. And what's more baffling to me, and what frustrates me the most, and I know it frustrates a lot of people, is that these things in the Kohberger case, things are under seal. And even the hearing tomorrow, which is today is the 10th, tomorrow will be the December 11th. There's an ex-parte hearing at 2:30, and it's a closed hearing. And the defense is asking for this hearing. It's a defense's ex-parte hearing tomorrow. Yet it's closed to the public. And so, and it's the defense that presumably is asking for it to be closed, because it is the defense's ex-parte motion. Now, this ex-parte motion could be a number of things. It could be to have the judge decide whether or not Pennsylvania law or Idaho law applies in terms of the motion to suppress the arrest warrant and the motion to suppress the items that were found in Kohberger's family home when they broke in there. So that is just strange. And I'm wondering if there's going to be anything under seal with regard to this Mangione case. So it makes me think that in the Kohberger case, there's something else bigger. And just from a layperson and a civil attorney point of view, I noticed some gaps and inconsistencies and things that don't make sense in the Kohberger case that caused me to question how he was arrested and why they surveilled him and why they couldn't arrest him while he was jogging around his house. Because clearly you had more of an indication that, or more of a description of a person who did the unaliving with the CEO, who unalived the CEO in the early or in the morning on the street in New York. You have more indication, more information about his appearance. Enough so that somebody at McDonald's called and reported him. So, but yet they just walked in casually and talked to him. And when they asked him about certain things, he became nervous and he started shaking. And so then, I don't know exactly what happened, but, they searched him, apparently, or he provided a fake ID. And they arrested him under probable cause for crimes of forgery and other Pennsylvania crimes, but not the crime of murder. So they arrested him on other grounds. They put him into custody. In the meantime, New York filed a complaint and an arrest warrant for murder. The arrest warrant details all kinds of stuff, or the complaint details all kinds of stuff, that he had a weapon, so on and so forth. But, and now the governor of New York might have to issue a governor's warrant to get him back to New York to face the charges, because Mr. Mangione is not waiving his right to be extradited. Whereas Bryan Kohberger waived his right to be extradited. And so that too, makes me think, why would that be? Why would Bryan Kohberger waive his right to be extradited and Mangione not? Especially if Mangione is claiming he's not guilty, he would want to know what the charges are against him exactly, what the evidence is. My guess is that maybe Mr. Mangione already knows, because of what was found in his backpack and everything. He knows that they have the goods on him, and he's going to fight it. Just for whatever reason, he's going to fight it. But I don't know that to be true. And I don't know criminal law in that way, with all these jurisdictions and people getting extradited and whatnot. I'm just pointing out similarities and differences with regard to people being arrested for murder, or people being arrested in Pennsylvania for crimes that were committed in other states. That's it. But because he showed a fake ID, Mr. Mangione showed a fake ID, that gave the cops reasonable or probable cause to arrest him under forgery, because he's using fake IDs. It's like identity theft. So those are my thoughts, and I know I'm rambling, but I had to get it out, because tomorrow I might not want to talk about it. So I wanted to talk about it, and I wanted to make this video because I think there is something strange with the Kohberger case. So those are my thoughts, and let me know what you think. I'll talk to you guys later.